My name is Maya Hart, and I was 37 the night my mother told a high school auditorium that I had imagined raising my niece. She said it into a microphone under a banner that read Family First. My younger brother, Evan, was 10 feet behind her, smiling beside a picture of himself and his daughter, June. The picture had been blown up 6 feet tall for his school board campaign. He looked like the kind of father who answered every school call and stayed through every bad night. I knew better because I had been the one there for all of them. For 9 years, I raised June day by day. I was the school contact, the person who came when asthma hit, and the safe person beside her after nightmares. Then my family pushed me out and told her I had chosen to leave. That night, Evan planned to use June to tell 200 parents that he had raised her alone. My mother planned to keep me at a table by the coat racks. Neither of them knew what June had sealed inside the white envelope in her lap. I did not know either. I only knew she had sent me a message 40 minutes before the doors opened. Please come, and if Grandma tries to make you leave, don't. So I came. The campaign volunteer at the front table smiled when I gave her my name. She found a printed badge that said Maya Hart, guest, and reached across the table with it. My mother appeared before I could take it. That one's wrong, Diane said. She lifted the badge from the volunteer's hand, peeled it away from its blue backing, and dropped it into a trash can under the table. Then she opened a plastic box and wrote a new one in black marker. Maya Hart, CHILDCARE volunteer. We need someone by the activity table, she said. You always were good with children. I wasn't asked to work, I said. Diane pressed the badge against my jacket anyway. Then think of it as helping. It used to make you feel useful. She said useful the way some people say difficult. It sounded like a diagnosis that explained why I should stand where she placed me. I removed the badge and held it between 2 fingers. June invited me. June is 17. June has a speech to give and a father to support. She doesn't need old confusion tonight. I looked into the auditorium. Evan's name covered the stage curtains. Parents, reporters, and campaign volunteers filled the rows. Paula Benton, chair of the Westfield Parent Coalition, checked note cards beside the podium. Evan had built his campaign around being a widowed father who understood what families needed from public schools. His website said he had raised June alone after his wife died. The same line was printed on a sign near the entrance. Raised his daughter alone. That's not true, I said. This is not the place. It became the place when you printed it 6 feet high. Her mouth tightened. Do not punish your brother because you regret the choices you made. Before I could answer, June stepped out from behind the stage curtain. She wore a plain green dress and the silver necklace I had given her on her 7th birthday. I had not seen that necklace in 10 years. For a second, I forgot the banner, the badge, and my mother's hand on my arm. June saw me. She did not smile. She let out a breath. Then she touched the white envelope in her lap and nodded once. That was enough. I walked to the activity table and sat beside the coat racks. If your family ever needed everything you gave and still acted like you did not count, stay with me, because June had not opened the envelope in her lap yet. It began after Rachel died. Rachel was Evan's wife and June's mother. She was 25 when a truck crossed the center line on a wet road and hit her car outside Millbrook. June was 2 years old. There was no villain in that part. One morning, Rachel packed a purple cup in June's daycare bag. By dinner, she was gone. Evan broke in a quiet way. He stopped eating unless food was placed in front of him. He slept in his clothes. He would stand in June's doorway and stare at her crib like the room had become written in a language he could no longer read. I was 22, newly accepted into a respiratory therapy program, working mornings at a pharmacy, and sharing an apartment with my friend Tasha. The night after the funeral, my mother called and told me to bring enough clothes for 2 weeks. 2 weeks sounded possible. 2 weeks sounded like family. I packed scrubs, jeans, my anatomy workbook, and the cheap alarm clock I used for early shifts. I slept on Evan's couch that first night because June would not let go of my shirt. At 3 a.m, I sat on the floor with her against my chest while she cried for a mother who was never going to answer. At 5, Evan walked through the living room. He saw us and stopped. I can't do this, he said. Not tonight, I told him. You don't have to do all of it tonight. He nodded and went back to bed. The first 2 weeks were daily care, insurance calls, and offers of help that removed nothing from my hands. My mother held June long enough for pictures and said, "Her father is trying so hard." Evan was trying. Grief had put him underwater. The problem was that when he reached the surface, he saw me holding everything and decided he could keep swimming elsewhere. At the end of the second week, I folded my clothes and placed my anatomy book in a tote. Diane stood in the kitchen watching me. "Where are you going?" "Home, I have class Monday." "Evan goes back to work Monday. Daycare closes at 6. "Then he needs to leave work by 6. My program matters too." "Maya, your brother lost his wife." That was one of the sentences my family used to end a discussion without solving the problem. It meant his time, exhaustion, and future had to be protected first. I stayed another week. Then schedules changed, Evan traveled for work, and summer came without making anything easier. I gave up my place in the full-time program and enrolled part-time. No one ordered me to do it. That was how my family told the story later. I had signed the form myself. What they left out was that Evan called from an airport on the final registration day. June's daycare was closed, and my mother had an appointment she would not move. I reached the college office at 3:48 with June asleep against my shoulder. The counselor asked whether I had dependable childcare. I said yes because I wanted it to become true, then changed to night classes because wanting was not a plan. Evan thanked me when I got home. He said, "I owe you." That sentence lasted 9 years and paid nothing. By the time June was 4, I knew how she liked her scrambled eggs, which Moon Book calmed her, and how to get her through the nightmares about her mother standing across a road. She called me May May because Maya was hard for her. Evan was building a career in real estate. His office used his story in ads about a widowed father building a new life for his daughter. I handled the daily care. He became the public picture. When I said he had help, Diane answered, "Don't make everything about credit." That was the rule. The work was family work when it needed doing. The credit belonged to Evan. That was the whole middle of my life in 4 lines. I raised June every day. Evan paid the bills and took the credit. Diane erased me whenever the work became a story. June remembered who had actually been there. June was 5 when the nightmares got worse. She would crawl into my bed and place one hand on my cheek to make sure I was real. Children do not care who should have stayed. They care who is there. So I stayed. I studied after she slept and worked weekend pharmacy shifts. Each time I thought Evan's recovery, June starting school, or my clinical placement would force the family to rearrange, they moved the line. First grade registration was on a Wednesday morning. Evan promised he would meet us in the school office at 9. At 9:10, June was swinging her legs from a plastic chair. At 9:20, the secretary brought us the forms. At 9:30, Evan sent a message. Closing got moved up. Handle it for me? The emergency card had spaces for 3 contacts. I wrote Evan first because he was her father. The secretary, Mrs. Alvarez, looked at it. Who answers during the day? Usually me. Who picks her up if she is sick? Me. Who knows her doctor and medications? I do. She slid the card back. Then put yourself first, we can list her father second. I hesitated. Families like mine train you to fear accurate paperwork. June leaned over the desk with a green crayon in her hand. May May comes when I need her, she said. Mrs. Alvarez smiled at her. That's what this card is for. I crossed out Evan's name in the first box and wrote mine. Maya Hart, aunt and guardian, primary contact. I added my numbers and checked my name for emergency decisions if a parent could not be reached. Mrs. Alvarez made a copy and handed the original back to me. Keep this with her records at home. I placed it with June's school records. I did not know that card would sit in a box for 11 years. I did not know June would one day carry it onto a state. Back then, it was only proof that the school understood our life more honestly than my family did. That fall, June had an asthma attack during recess. The school called me first. I reached the nurse's office in 14 minutes. Evan arrived 2 hours later at the urgent care clinic and walked in talking loudly about traffic. June was asleep against me with a breathing mask resting beside her. He touched her foot. You okay, bug? She opened her eyes. May May came fast. Evan looked at me. She knows you work close. I worked 11 miles away. He never asked how fast I had driven. That evening, he wrote online about the terror of being a single father. Diane praised him for always putting June first. I closed the page and went back to studying lungs. As June got older, my role grew and my name got smaller. I taught June to ride a bike in an empty church parking lot, running beside her until she stopped looking back. I did not correct Evan in front of her when he accepted credit for the life happening around him. That became my mistake and my mercy. I protected June from adult conflict, and my family used the quiet to build a version where I had barely been there. By the time she was 10, Evan had opened his own brokerage and started appearing at chamber breakfasts and city meetings. An office ad showed him with June under the words home SDARTS with family. Diane told me only immediate family belonged in the picture. May is immediate, June said. She's my person. Evan crouched in front of her. Your dad is your person. Then why does school call Maya? On the drive home, June asked whether she had been mean. You told the truth, I said. After that, Diane started correcting June in small ways. If June called me her person, Diane corrected her and mentioned that Evan paid the mortgage. Money became his proof of parenthood because presence was not available. I had never claimed June was mine. I never asked her to choose. I kept a photograph of Rachel in her room and told stories about the way Rachel danced while cooking. I wanted June to have every safe piece of her history. My mother treated that as a weakness. At June's 11th birthday, Diane had me organize the party, then kept me out of the family picture. After the guests left, Evan waited until June went to the restroom. We need to talk about the house. What about it? I think it's time you got your own place. I stared at him. Why? June's older. She needs a normal setup, a father and daughter. There is one adult doing most of the parenting and one paying bills. His face went red. See, that's exactly the problem. You think helping means you get a vote. I gave 9 years. You lived in my house. Because you asked me to raise your child. I asked you to help after Rachel died. For 2 weeks. And you stayed. There it was, the same trick my family used with every burden. If I had not abandoned the person who needed me, then staying had been my free choice. If it was my choice, they owed me nothing. What happens when June gets sick? I asked. I'll handle it. What's her inhaler dose? I am her father. He said it as if the title answered every question. My mother came around the corner. She had been listening. This is why boundaries are overdue, she said. You planned this. We are helping you move forward. By removing me after I did the hard part. Diane lowered her voice. You were never her mother. I know. Then act like it. June came back before I answered. Evan smiled at her and held up a new tablet from one of the gift bags. The conversation ended because my family knew I would not make a child stand inside it. They gave me 30 days. During those 30 days, Diane began telling June I was excited to have my freedom. I heard her once in the kitchen. Maya put her life on hold for too long, she said. She wants a fresh start. June looked at me. Do you? I wanted to say no. I wanted to tell her I would sleep in my car before leaving her with people who treated attention like a photo opportunity. But Evan had already warned me. If you make this hard, I will cut contact completely. She needs to attach to her actual parent. I knew any public fight would reach a child who had already lost one mother, so I chose the only quiet action I could live with. I wrote my phone number on the inside cover of June's favorite library book, The Moon in the Window. Under it, I wrote, "None of this was your fault. I will answer." Then I packed. June stood in the doorway while I folded my clothes. Grandma says you want your own family. Grandma doesn't get to tell you what I want. Are you leaving me? That question has never stopped hurting. I sat on the floor so we were eye to eye. The adults are changing where I live. Because of me. No. Because you don't love us. No. Then don't go. I love you, I said, and I am not going to ask you to fight the adults in your house. My number is in your moon book. If you ever need me and you can call, I will answer. She wrapped both arms around my neck. My mother waited by the front door with a box of kitchen things she said were mine. Evan stayed in the garage. I moved into a studio near the college. A week later, my calls to June's phone stopped going through. Letters came back unopened. Evan changed the school contact list. Diane told relatives I had become too attached and needed distance. By Christmas, the family story was finished. Maya had helped for a while. Maya had wanted more than was healthy. Maya had left to build her own life. Evan had raised June alone. I did not fight their story in public. June was 12, and any war would have reached her first. If someone ever reduced years of your care to a favor they barely remembered, put the name they gave you in the comment, because mine was about to be said into a microphone. I finished my respiratory therapy program when I was 32. It took 10 years from the first acceptance letter to the day I pinned my badge to Navy scrubs. I did not walk across the stage feeling triumphant. I felt tired and proud and angry at the time I had lost. All three were true. I took a job at Westfield Children's Hospital. The work suited me. Breathing problems do not care who gets credit. A child can be terrified and still need a mask held in place. A parent can be rude and still need someone to explain what the numbers mean. I learned to stay calm without disappearing. Tasha became a physical therapist and still called me every Sunday. Once, after a 12-hour shift, she asked if I missed June. Every day. Do you think she knows? I don't know. That wasn't my question. I sat in my car under the hospital parking lights. Yes, I said, I think some part of her knows. 5 years passed. I saw June in school photographs online. Evan posted first days, honor roll certificates, and father-daughter dances. He wrote long captions about perseverance. She grew into Rachel's eyes and my habit of pressing her lips together when she was thinking. I did not contact her through fake accounts. I did not wait outside school. Love does not excuse making a child feel watched. Then one October night, the emergency department called respiratory down for a 16-year-old with a severe asthma attack. The patient was not June. It was a girl named Kelsey Morgan. Kelsey's friend came in with the paramedics and waited outside the room until a nurse found her parents. That friend was June. I turned a corner carrying a treatment kit and almost walked into her. She knew me before I spoke. May. No one had called me that in 5 years. I stopped. She was taller than me. Her hair was pulled into a loose braid. She held a phone in both hands like it might tell her what to do. Hi, June. You work here? I do. Since when? 4 years. She looked at my badge, then at the treatment room. Is Kelsey going to die? The doctor is with her. We're helping her breathe. Her mother is on the way. She couldn't talk. I know that was frightening. June took one step toward me and stopped. Can you go in? Yes. Then go. I went. For the next hour, I did my job. Kelsey's airway opened. Her oxygen numbers improved. Her mother arrived crying, and Kelsey managed to say, "I'm okay," through the mask. When I came back into the hall, June was sitting alone. I sat 2 chairs away. She's stable. June nodded. You always came when people couldn't breathe. It was such a specific memory that I could not answer immediately. When she was 6, asthma had made her panic before it made her wheeze. I used to sit on the floor, count with her, and tell her we only had to get through one breath at a time. I tried to call you, she said. I know. How? The calls stopped, my letters came back. Dad said you didn't want to talk to me. That wasn't true. Her face changed, but she did not cry. Why didn't you come get me? There are answers that defend you and answers that protect the person asking. I tried to find one that did both. Because you were 11, and the adults with legal control had decided to make contact a fight, I didn't want every visit to cost you another fight at home. So you let them win. For a while, yes. She looked down at her hands. I found the moon book last year. Grandma had put it in a box in the basement. Did you see the number? I called. It belonged to a dentist. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because of course the one number I had trusted to carry love across 5 years had been reassigned to a dentist. I should have written more than one. You should have told me. You're right. That mattered. I did not explain until the truth disappeared. I had protected her, but I had also left her alone with their version. I'm sorry, I said. She looked at me then. Did you want your own family? I wanted you safe. I wanted my own life too. Those things were never enemies until the adults made them enemies. Did you raise me? I was there every day for 9 years. That's not what I asked. I took a breath. Yes, I helped raise you. Your father was still your father. Your mother was still your mother. And I did the daily work of raising you. June nodded once, like a person confirming an address. We did not hug. We exchanged numbers. For 3 months, we sent careful messages. She asked who sat with her after the nightmare about the road. I did. She asked whether Evan had come to the asthma clinic. Afterward. None of the answers were dramatic. That was why they worked. False stories survive big arguments. They have a harder time surviving ordinary details. We met for breakfast in January. June ordered scrambled eggs and asked the waitress to mix the cheese in before cooking. I looked at her. What? Nothing. You remember? Yes. She unfolded a printed page from her backpack. It was Evan's campaign biography. He had announced his school board run 2 weeks earlier. The page said, after losing his wife, Evan Hart devoted himself to raising his daughter alone while building a local business rooted in family values. June tapped the sentence. He wants me to talk about this at the launch. Do you want to? I don't know what part is mine anymore. Your memories are yours. Grandma says you filled my head. We have had breakfast twice. She says you started when I was little. By making your lunches. June almost smiled, then she folded the page. Did Dad ever go to my school when I was sick? Sometimes. How many times? I don't know. You do know. I did, twice before I moved out. How many times did they call you? A lot. Every time. Most times. She stared out the window. He says paying for the house means he did the important part. Paying for the house was important. That's not an answer. No, it isn't all of parenting. She put the biography back in her bag. Will you come to the launch? Would that make things harder for you? They are already hard. Then yes. I did not ask what she planned to say. I thought she wanted one honest face in the room. The week before the launch, my mother came to the hospital cafeteria. I had not told her my schedule. Evan knew where I worked, and apparently that was enough. Diane sat across from me without buying food. You look tired, she said. I worked last night. You always did make work your whole identity. I waited. She opened her purse and placed a campaign invitation between us. June says she invited you. She did. This is important to Evan. I know. He has a real chance to improve the schools. Then his plans for the schools should carry him. Don't be childish. What are you asking? She leaned closer. Skip the event. Let June have one uncomplicated night with her father. June asked me to come. June is angry. 17-year-old girls turn anger into theater. You want her to read a lie. It is a biography, not sworn testimony. It says he raised her alone. He did, financially. That word isn't in the biography. My mother pressed 2 fingers to the invitation. You got years of free housing. You got to play mother when you had no husband and no children of your own. We let you feel useful during a difficult time. Most people would have gratitude. There it was again, useful, not loved, not trusted, not family. Useful meant they could call when the child was vomiting and crop me out when the child was smiling. I'm coming, I said, then sit quietly. I wasn't planning to speak. Good. She stood. At the next table, a father was cutting a sandwich into small pieces for a boy with an oxygen tube. My mother glanced at them, then back at me. Don't make June choose. I never did. Showing up is a choice. Yes, I said, mine. Evan tried a different approach. He called me the next evening. Mom said you two talked. She talked. I don't want to fight. Neither do I. The campaign needs childcare at weekend events. Paid, properly paid. I held the phone away from my ear for a second. You are offering me a babysitting job. You are good with kids. I am a pediatric respiratory therapist. I know, that's why parents would trust you. What do you want in return? Nothing, I thought it could be a way to include you. Try again. He exhaled. The communications team has a release. It says extended family helped occasionally after Rachel died. We need everyone mentioned in background material to approve the language. Occasionally. It's normal campaign wording. 9 years. Maya, I paid for everything. You keep saying that like June ate money for breakfast. I am not doing this with you. Then don't. If you sign, I will make sure the campaign thanks you privately. I laughed once. That is the whole problem, Evan. What is? You want to thank me where no one can hear and erase me where everyone can. His voice hardened. This campaign is bigger than your feelings. Then it should survive the truth. I ended the call. That was the first time I stopped trying to make my refusal easy for him. Back in the auditorium, the lights dimmed. I sat by the coat racks with the childcare badge face down on the table. Children colored little schoolhouse pictures beside me. Parents filled the rows. A reporter set a camera near the center aisle. Evan walked onto the stage to applause. He wore a navy suit and the expression he used in real estate ads, serious enough to imply work, warm enough to imply dinner at 6. Westfield schools gave my daughter stability after tragedy, he began. As a father who raised a child alone, I know families need leaders who show up. The campaign video started. There was June at 3, sitting on his lap. I had taken the picture. There was June on her bicycle. I had taught her. The narrator said Evan had arranged his life around his daughter. I looked at June. She was not watching the screen. She was looking at the white envelope. When the video ended, Paula Benton came to the podium. The Westfield Parent Coalition looks for candidates whose lives demonstrate accountability, honesty, and consistent service to children. My mother stood near the stairs, almost glowing. Paula continued, "Tonight, we are proud to announce our endorsement of Evan Hart for school board." Applause filled the room. Evan hugged Paula. Flashbulbs went off. Then he took the microphone. "No endorsement means more than the one I receive every day from my daughter." He turned toward June. "She is the reason I learned family comes first. June, would you tell them what these years have meant to us?" June stood with the envelope. She took one step toward the podium. My mother met her and whispered something. June stopped. Diane looked toward me. Then she walked down the stage stairs and crossed the front aisle. She reached my table while the room waited. "Leave," she said quietly. June asked me to stay. "She cannot do this with you staring at her." "Do what?" "Honor her father without worrying about your reaction." I looked at June. She was watching us. "I'm not leaving." My mother picked up the childcare badge. "You have spent years making help sound like ownership." "I never claimed ownership." "Then stop acting entitled to a child's loyalty." "She is not a campaign prop." Diane's hand closed around the badge. "You always do this. You turn kindness into a debt." The microphone at the side aisle was live. It had been placed there for audience questions. People in the first rows had begun looking back. I kept my voice low. "Do not make her read something false." "Her father raised her." "I raised her for 9 years." My mother reached for the side microphone before I understood what she was doing. She lifted it and turned toward the room with a sad smile. "I apologize," she said. "We have an estranged relative who chose tonight to revisit an old family grievance." The auditorium went still in pieces. First the front rows, then the people turning to see who she meant. Evan came to the edge of the stage. "Mom, it's okay." "No," Diane said into the microphone. "Your sister has spent years confusing help with parenthood." She looked directly at me. "Maya, you were given a home when you needed one. You helped during a hard season, but you did not raise June." I stood because sitting at the children's table while she erased 9 years felt like agreeing. I took care of her every day from 2 to 11. My mother gave a small laugh, then she said it, "You were just the babysitter." The line traveled through the speakers. 200 people heard it. The reporter's camera turned toward me. The children at the activity table stopped coloring. My mother held the microphone as if she had finally placed me where I belonged. Evan stepped down from the stage. "Maya lived in my house," he said. "I paid the bills, I made the decisions. She watched June when I needed help. That's what happened." I looked at him. When school called, who answered? His jaw tightened. "This is not a trivia contest." When asthma hit, who came? I was her father. "You were." That answer seemed to unsettle him more than an accusation would have. I did not need to steal his title. I only needed him to stop using it to bury what I had done. My mother held out the badge. "You see, she cannot let anyone else have a moment." From the stage, June said, "Grandma." Diane turned. June had reached the podium. She placed the prepared speech to one side without opening it, then she tore the top from the white envelope. "Grandma, give me the microphone." Sweetheart, your father has won. Give it to me. The tone was not loud. It was the same tone June had used at 6 when she told a nurse she could breathe if everybody stopped talking at once. My mother carried the microphone to the stage because refusing in front of the room would have looked worse. June took it. My dad asked me to tell you what it was like being raised by him, she said. Evan moved closer. June, we can do this another time. No, you put my childhood in the video. You made it tonight. She opened the envelope and removed a worn card with a faded blue border. I recognized it before she said what it was. Westfield Elementary Emergency Contact Card. The crossing out beside Evan's name was still visible. My handwriting filled the first box. Maya Hart, Aunt and Guardian, Primary Contact. For a moment, I was back in the school office with June swinging her legs under a plastic chair, Mrs. Alvarez asking who came, June holding a green crayon. May comes when I need her. June held the card up. This is my first grade emergency card. I found it in a box with my school records. My aunt is the first contact. My aunt is listed as my guardian. Her work number, her cell number, and our home number are all here. Evan reached toward her. That was paperwork, I was working. June pulled the card back. You said she was a babysitter. She was helping us. June looked at the audience. A babysitter goes home. No one moved. Maya was the person who actually came, stayed, and raised me every day. My mother opened her mouth. June kept speaking. My dad paid for the house, I know that. He bought my clothes and my food. That mattered. But when the school called, they called Maya. When I could not breathe, Maya came. When I had nightmares, Maya stayed. When I learned to ride a bike, Maya ran beside me. When I asked who my safe person was, everybody knew the answer until it became bad for Dad's image. Evan took the second microphone from the podium. June is upset, he said. She is 17 and she does not understand what it takes to support a family. That was his first countermove. He turned toward the parents. I worked those years so my daughter had a home. Maya had the freedom to help because I carried the financial responsibility. I never denied she spent time with June. June faced him. You denied it in your biography. The biography says I raised you. It says alone. I was the only parent. That is not the same as being the only person who raised me. Evan looked at Paula Benton. Every working parent in this room has used childcare. That does not make the caregiver the parent. Paula did not nod. June held up the card again. The school did not list her as childcare. It listed her as my guardian. Because I authorized it. Then you knew. That stopped him. He had tried to make the card meaningless and ended up admitting he knew exactly what role I had. The room made a low sound, not applause, recognition. My mother hurried back to the microphone. This is what Maya does, she said. She takes a vulnerable child and makes herself necessary. June has been spending time with her secretly for months. She has filled this girl's head with resentment. That was her second countermove. She turned to June. Sweetheart, you do not have to perform her bitterness. June looked at her grandmother for a long second. Maya did not know I had this card. Diane shook her head. Of course she did. She didn't know what I was going to say. Then, where did you get those accusations? From my life. My mother went still. June lowered the card. You told me Maya wanted to leave. You hid my moon book in the basement. You mailed her letters back. Last week, I found 3 of them unopened in your desk with my name on them. I had not known that. The card stayed the proof everyone could see. The letters were not produced, not passed around, not turned into another reveal. June only named the act that explained 5 silent years. Diane looked toward Evan. Say something. He rubbed one hand over his mouth. This is a family matter. Paula Benton stood from her chair. You made it campaign material. She did not have a microphone, but the room was quiet enough to hear her. Evan faced her. Paula, I am sorry this happened during the launch. We can clear up the wording. The wording is the claim. I raised my daughter. Paula looked at June, then at the card. And you allowed our coalition to endorse you based on a story that erased the person doing the daily care. This is complicated. It was simple on your website. The campaign manager, a man named Joel Mercer, stepped from behind the curtain. He had been tapping his phone fast enough to look angry at the screen. We should end the event, he said. Evan stared at him. We have 3 more speakers. We should end it. My mother walked back toward me. Are you happy now? I looked at June before I answered. She was holding the card against her chest. Her face was pale, but she was standing straight. No, I said. I did not come to take her from anyone. I came because she asked me not to leave. Diane's eyes filled. My mother could cry on command when a room stopped obeying her. We did our best after a terrible death. Rachel's death was terrible. Your brother was grieving. He was. And you resent him for surviving. No, I resent both of you for turning my care into his story, and my silence into proof that I never gave it. She waited for me to raise my voice. I did not. I will not help you use June's childhood as campaign material, I said. She decides where her story appears. Paula reached for the podium microphone. The Westfield Parent Coalition made its endorsement tonight based on Evan Hart's stated record of honesty, accountability, and consistent involvement as a parent. Evan stepped toward her. Paula, don't make a permanent decision in an emotional moment. I am correcting a decision made with incomplete information. She looked toward the audience. Effective now, our endorsement is withdrawn. The words landed without music or drama. A woman in the second row removed an Evan Hart campaign sticker from her sweater and folded it onto itself. One of the teachers lowered his phone. The reporter kept her camera raised. Evan looked at June. You did this to my campaign. June flinched. I started toward the stage. She lifted one hand to stop me. No, she said to him. You did it when you made me the proof of something that wasn't true. Joel, the campaign manager, walked to the back wall and began pulling loose the clips that held the Family First banner. One corner came down, then the other. The huge words folded in the middle. Evan watched them drop. June took a paper from the podium. This is the release they wanted me to sign for the campaign video, she said. I don't give permission for my picture, my voice, or my childhood to be used anymore. She tore it once and placed the pieces on the podium. No one applauded at first. That was right. It was not a victory speech. It was a 17-year-old taking her life out of an advertisement. Other people stood after that. Not everyone. Enough. My mother sat in the front row as if someone had removed the floor beneath her. Evan placed his microphone on a chair. He did not look at me again. The event ended 23 minutes early. Parents moved slowly toward the doors, trying not to stare while staring anyway. Campaign volunteers collected signs. The children at my table left their schoolhouse pictures behind. I walked to the stage. June came down the stairs with the emergency card still in her hand. Did I ruin everything? She asked. No. Dad said I ruined the campaign. His campaign is his responsibility. Grandma is going to say you made me do it. I know. You didn't. I know that too. She looked at the card. Mrs. Alvarez gave me a box when the elementary school cleared old paper files. She remembered me. This was inside. I remember filling it out. Dad was crossed out. He missed registration. I put him second. Why? Because he was your father. June swallowed, even then. Even then. She held the card toward me. You should have it. It is your record. You're on it. So are you. She put it back in the envelope. Can we leave? Yes. My mother reached us before we reached the aisle. June, you are coming home with your father. June turned. I drove myself. You are upset. I am clear. Diane pointed at me. This woman has waited years for a chance to punish us. June stepped between us. Her name is Maya. My mother recoiled as if the correction were cruel. After everything I did for this family. I almost answered. Then I recognized the invitation. She wanted me to list her failures so she could become the wounded center again. I picked up my coat. Good night, Diane. June and I walked out together. We did not leave in the same car. She was 17, not a child I could collect from a bad room and declare safe forever. We stood in the parking lot under a light that kept blinking. Text me when you get home, I said. You sound like you used to. Is that bad? No. She hugged me then. It was not the hug of an 11-year-old asking me not to leave. It was careful and adult and brief. That made it better. 3 days later, Evan paused campaign events but remained on the ballot. Some supporters called it private conflict. Others said using his child's history was a question of public trust. I did not argue online. He removed the line about raising June alone, then sent me an email. The subject was family. Maya. I am sorry you felt unrecognized. We both contributed in different ways. If you tell Paula this was a misunderstanding, she may reconsider. Restoring the endorsement would help June avoid more public attention. Evan. I read it twice. He had apologized for my feeling, called 9 years a contribution, and asked me to fix the consequence of erasing me. I answered with 3 sentences. June decides where her story is used. I will not contact Paula about your endorsement. Do not ask June to repair your campaign. He did not reply. My mother left 11 messages in 2 days. She called me selfish, accused me of jealousy, cried about Rachel, and said June would hate me. The last began, after all the times we let you help. I blocked her number. It did not feel powerful. It felt quiet. For years, I had imagined a boundary as a speech that finally made the other person understand. It turned out a boundary could be a button pressed on a phone while standing in line for coffee. Paula came to the hospital 2 weeks later and apologized for accepting a polished story without asking June whether she wanted to be part of it. She invited me to speak about family caregivers at another forum. No, I said. You don't want a public correction. The correction happened. I help people every day. I don't need a campaign title to make the years count. That answer would have been impossible for me at 22. Back then, being needed felt so close to being loved that I ignored the difference. June stayed at Evan's house through graduation. I know some people expected her to move in with me the next morning. Life did not work that way, and I was glad we did not pretend it did. Evan was still her father. The house was still her home. Her school, friends, clothes, and memories were there. She had the right to decide how much relationship she wanted with him without making me the prize for rejecting him. We started having breakfast on Sundays. Some weeks she talked for 2 hours. Some weeks she canceled because she had exams or wanted to sleep. I did not turn attendance into proof of love. At one breakfast, she placed a photocopy of the emergency card beside my plate. I want you to keep this one. Are you sure? Yes. Why? Because I spent years thinking I made you up bigger in my head. I touched the faded blue border. You didn't. I know. I kept the copy in a drawer at home. I did not frame it. I did not place it where visitors would ask. It was not a trophy, and June was not evidence in a case I had won. It was one honest piece of paper from a life my family had tried to describe without me. Evan lost the election by 312 votes. I could not say the endorsement caused it. Real consequences were rarely that neat. He kept selling houses, helped with June's college costs, and never apologized to me without attaching a request. My mother did not come to June's graduation. She said attending would reward disrespect. Evan sat on the left side of the gym with 2 business friends. I sat on the right beside Tasha, in a chair with my name printed correctly on a white card. Maya Hart. No question mark. No volunteer label. No instruction to stand by the coats. When June crossed the stage, she looked first toward her father. Then she looked toward me. She smiled at both of us. That was her right. After the ceremony, Evan hugged her and left before the pictures. Diane sent flowers with no card. June asked Tasha to take one photograph of us under a tree. I stood beside her, not behind the camera. It did not erase Rachel, steal Evan's place, or return 5 lost years. It only showed who was there. I still worked at the children's hospital. I still answered calls when someone could not breathe. The difference was that I no longer answered every family demand just because I was capable. June called me once during her first college semester because her car would not start. My first instinct was to leave work, drive 3 hours, and solve it. Then I asked, "What have you tried?" She laughed. There she is. Who? The woman who thinks help means doing everything. I laughed too. We called roadside assistance. She handled it. That small moment mattered more than another rescue would have. I loved her enough not to make my usefulness the center of our relationship. If stories about quiet people finally being named truthfully matter to you, subscribe, because I had stopped asking usefulness to prove I was loved. My mother said I was just the babysitter because she thought temporary help could not claim a lasting place. She was right about one part. I did not own June. I never had. Love was not ownership. Care was not a debt. 9 years did not give me the right to control the adult she became. but those years were real. I had been the person who stayed when staying was hard and left when fighting would have made a child pay the price. I had made mistakes inside both choices. I could admit that without handing my whole history back to the people who erased it. The emergency card did not turn me into someone important. It only made the room read what had been true all along. I was not valuable because my family needed a babysitter. I was valuable even after I stopped proving it by being useful.